7 hours ago, a comet did something that should be physically impossible. It dove into the sun and came out stronger. And I have spent the last 2 decades studying astrophysics, orbital mechanics, and the deep architecture of our solar system. I have seen solar flares tear apart spacecraft telemetry. I have watched comets disintegrate into dust clouds millions of miles wide. I have run thousands of simulations of what happens when fragile, frozen bodies collide with the violent heart of a star. And in all of that time, across every dataset I have ever analyzed, I have never, not once seen anything like what happened at 4:12 UTC on the 15th of March 2026. What I am about to walk you through is not a theory. It is not a hypothesis. It is live data, streaming in right now from the most sophisticated instruments humanity has ever built. And every single reading is telling us the same thing. The rules we thought governed this universe may no longer apply. The object in question is designated 3 Atlas. It entered the sun's lower corona approximately 7 hours ago. According to every trajectory model NASA had prepared, this was supposed to be a textbook sun grazer event. A chunk of ice and rock, roughly 1.2 kilometers in diameter, plunging into plasma, burning at nearly 20 million degrees Celsius. The expected outcome was total sublimation, the comet evaporating into a thin, fading debris cloud within 45 seconds. Scientists around the world had their instruments ready to study the remnants. We expected a quiet end. What we got instead shook the foundation of modern physics. At the exact moment 3 Atlas made contact with the corona, the Sun unleashed an X93 class solar flare, one of the most powerful eruptions recorded in the current solar cycle. Under any known physical model, that combination should have been the final nail in the coffin. A 1-2 kilometer body, already being consumed by stellar plasma, hit directly by a flare, carrying enough energy to strip the atmosphere off an entire planet. The math was simple, brutal, and final. Except the math was wrong. The Solar Dynamics Observatory, a spacecraft designed specifically to monitor the sun's behavior in real time, recorded something that caused 3 separate teams at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center to stop what they were doing and stare at their screens in silence. Instead of a debris cloud expanding outward from the impact site, sensors detected a 14% collapse in local plasma density. The magnetic field at the flare's center didn't explode outward the way it always does. It imploded. It folded inward directly toward 3 Atlas, and the object's luminosity, rather than fading as vaporization would cause, increased by 0% within 3 seconds of contact. 3 Atlas didn't absorb the blow. It absorbed the energy. It drank the flare. The Parker Solar Probe, currently enduring surface temperatures above 1,300 degrees Celsius to collect this data, confirmed what the SDO recorded. High-energy protons from the flare were not scattering in random directions the way physics demands. They were streaming in a focused, coherent flow directly into the comet's nucleus. Scientists at Goddard flagged the readings as a sensor malfunction and rebooted the telemetry system twice. Both times, the data came back identical. The flare's energy wasn't striking a wall, it was flowing into a sink. And 3 minutes later, at precisely 4:15 UTC, 3 Atlas did something that made every physicist monitoring this event go pale. It accelerated not toward the sun, not away from it, but sideways. Against gravity, against every law of orbital mechanics ever written. To shift an object of that mass against the gravitational pull of a star requires force equivalent to 1,000 Saturn V rockets firing at the same moment. There are no jets on a comet. There is no propulsion system in ice and rock. Yet 3 Atlas moved deliberately, powerfully, and with terrifying precision. And the direction it chose to move? Directly toward us. The moment 3 Atlas accelerated sideways against the sun's gravity, every simulation running at NASA's Near-Earth Object Center had to be thrown out and rebuilt from scratch. Because what the data described next wasn't just unusual physics, it was physics running in reverse. Let me explain what I mean by that. The second law of thermodynamics is not a suggestion. It is the most reliably observed principle in all of science. Entropy increases, order decays into disorder, energy spreads and dissipates. When you throw a snowball into a blast furnace, the snowball does not become stronger. The heat wins. Every single time, in every single environment, across billions of years of universal history, the heat wins. Now imagine a scenario where you are driving a car at 100 miles per hour and you strike a solid brick wall. Every joule of kinetic energy in that collision transforms into heat, sound, and destruction. That is how energy works. That is the only way energy works. Except, 3 Atlas just rewrote that rule in front of every instrument we have pointed at the sun. When the X-93 flare struck the object, the Parker Solar Probe recorded something that caused one senior NASA engineer to describe it in an internal message we have since obtained as a thermodynamic hallucination. For exactly 12 seconds after a 20 million degree wave of plasma made direct contact with 3 Atlas, the surface temperature of the object dropped, not slightly, not as a rounding error. It measurably cooled in the presence of the most intense heat source in our solar system. Negative entropy, the theoretical reversal of the universe's most fundamental rule, was happening in real time, and we were watching it happen. What material could possibly do this? The spectral analysis from the Keck Observatory in Hawaii arrived just over an hour ago, and the results are, to put it plainly, impossible. The absorption lines in 3 Atlas's spectrum reveal elements that have no business being in a comet. Technetium, promethium, both are unstable, radioactive elements with short half-lives. They do not form through natural stellar processes. They are byproducts of nuclear fission elements that only appear when matter has been deliberately processed. Alongside these anomalous elements, there is something equally disturbing in what the analysis does not show. There is no carbon. None. Comets are, by their very nature, carbon-rich bodies, the ancient delivery vehicles that seeded early planets with the organic chemistry needed for life. But 3 Atlas contains no carbon whatsoever. What it does contain is a metallic crystalline structure that resonates actively with the solar magnetic field. That is not a rock. That is not ice. That is engineering. When you combine a superconducting material with a powerful magnetic field, you produce what physicists call the Meissner effect levitation, the complete expulsion of magnetic flux from within the material. We use this principle in maglev trains here on Earth. But imagine scaling that effect to the magnitude of a stellar magnetic field. If 3 Atlas is a room temperature superconductor the size of a mountain, then the solar flare did not destroy it because the flare was never able to penetrate it. The electromagnetic energy was channeled around the object, funneled along its surface, and converted into directed momentum. It surfed the sun's own magnetic field lines, like a spacecraft riding a perfectly engineered rail. This single explanation accounts for every anomaly in the data: the cooling, the acceleration, the absence of damage, and the complete lack of an outgassing tail. But it creates a far more disturbing question than the one it answers. Superconductors do not grow naturally in the vacuum of space. Refined technetium does not form in the Oort cloud. Complex, heat-absorbing metamaterials do not spontaneously assemble themselves through random cosmic processes. The universe does not build precision instruments by accident. So we are left with a question that the scientific community has, until this morning, only ever discussed in hypothetical terms. Is 3 Atlas a natural anomaly, a 1 in a trillion coincidence of cosmic chemistry? Or is 3 Atlas a probe? A vehicle engineered by an intelligence that understood long before we did that the most abundant fuel source in any star system is the star itself. A craft designed to dive into the corona, harvest the explosive energy of a solar flare, and use that energy as a propulsion kick toward its next destination. And according to the latest trajectory calculation from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, that next destination is 149 million kilometers away, a blue planet, the third from the Sun, traveling now at 0.04% the speed of light. At 4:22 UTC, exactly 10 minutes after the solar flare impact, 3 Atlas did something that has no precedent in the entire history of orbital mechanics. It stopped, not slowed down, not curved gradually under gravitational influence. In the span of 4.2 seconds, an object moving at 0.04% the speed of light came to a near absolute halt relative to the Sun. To grasp the magnitude of what that means, consider the physics involved. The g-forces required to decelerate a 1-2 kilometer object from relativistic speed to a standstill in 4.2 seconds are beyond anything our materials science can even theorize. Diamonds would shatter. Carbon nanotubes would vaporize. Even the exotic theoretical material known as neutronium, the compressed matter of a neutron star, would fail under that kind of stress. The object should have become a diffuse cloud of superheated plasma. NASA ran the deceleration numbers 4 times. Each calculation returned the same result. What 3 Atlas just did requires energy equivalent to the simultaneous detonation of every nuclear weapon on Earth, and the object emerged from that stop without a scratch. Then it hovered. For exactly 18 seconds, the Solar Dynamics Observatory tracked 3 Atlas holding a fixed position relative to the Sun, not orbiting, not drifting, not coasting on momentum. Hovering. And then it fired. Not a reflection of sunlight. Not a thermal emission from heated rock. A directed beam of coherent light, a laser pulse aimed with surgical precision directly at Earth, but not at a random point on Earth's surface. The beam struck the ionosphere at the exact coordinates above the Arecibo Observatory site in Puerto Rico, the very location from which, in November 1974, humanity broadcast its first deliberate message to the stars, a 1,679-bit transmission carrying the story of our mathematics, our biology, and our place in the cosmos. 3 Atlas fired back at the same address. The signal lasted 1.6 milliseconds. It carried a burst of compressed data that our teams are still fully decoding, but the first layer is already clear. It is a prime number sequence, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, extending all the way to the largest prime currently known to mathematics. Primes are not accidental. They are the fingerprint of deliberate intelligence, the one mathematical language that requires no translation across species or civilizations, because they are built into the fabric of arithmetic itself. But embedded within that prime sequence is a second layer of data that changes the entire context of this event. It is a star chart, a detailed map of stellar positions with a clearly marked origin point. That origin point matches, with extraordinary precision, the location of Proxima Centauri, the nearest star system to our own, 4.24 light-years away. Someone sent this object from our closest neighbor, and now it has come to say something to us. Within seconds of firing that pulse, 3 Atlas accelerated again, but this time through a mechanism that surpasses everything we observed at the Sun. Rather than using gravity or even magnetic field absorption, the object used the Sun's magnetic field lines as a literal railgun, launching itself outward like a bead on a wire. Its velocity doubled in an instant to 0.08% the speed of light, and its trajectory shifted by exactly 0.004 degrees. That number sounds trivially small. It is not. That precise angular correction means 3 Atlas will no longer pass Earth at a comfortable distance of 4 million miles. It will pass within the orbit of the Moon. At its current velocity, it will cross the lunar threshold in 38 hours. A relativistic object of that mass, threading the gap between Earth and its only natural satellite, will not pass unnoticed. The gravitational wake alone will surge our tides, destabilize satellites in geostationary orbit, and distort the Van Allen radiation belts that protect every living thing on this planet from solar radiation. And the navigation required to achieve this level of precision to correct course by 0.004 of a degree from 149 million kilometers away while traveling at relativistic speed does not happen by natural drift. It requires real-time artificial intelligence. There is a pilot on board, and the pilot just corrected its course. There are 3 possibilities sitting in front of us right now, and every scientist monitoring this event has been privately running the same calculation, even if most are not yet willing to say it publicly. The first possibility is that 3 Atlas is a probe, a reconnaissance vehicle, sent to gather data on our solar system, our planet, and potentially our civilization. The prime number sequence, the star chart, the targeting of Arecibo, these are consistent with contact protocol, the kind of opening move a scientifically advanced civilization would make if it wanted to announce itself to a species it knew could decode mathematics. In this scenario, the signal it fired was a greeting. The trajectory toward Earth is curiosity. The scan of our atmosphere is a survey. We are being studied, not threatened. The second possibility is darker. 3 Atlas is a messenger delivering not just a signal, but a package, something physical, something that will be left in our orbit, in our atmosphere, or on our surface. History shows us that when more advanced civilizations make first contact with less advanced ones, the outcome for the lesser civilization is rarely comfortable. The third possibility, the one that theoretical physicists have whispered about since the trajectory data came in, is that 3 Atlas is not here for us at all. Just as it used the sun as a fuel stop, it may be using Earth as a gravitational slingshot, a final course correction to launch itself toward another destination deeper in the galaxy. We are not the target, we are the road. But even as a waypoint, the forces it will exert passing within 200,000 kilometers of our surface at relativistic speed will be felt by every ocean, every satellite, and every power grid on this planet. And then the Deep Space Network delivered a final data packet that collapsed all 3 possibilities into a single, suffocating reality. The pulse interval that had been repeating every 0.9 seconds is now firing every 0.4 seconds. The signal rate is accelerating as the object gets closer, the unmistakable behavior of an incoming vessel hailing a port. But the content of the latest packet is what has silenced every room at every space agency currently monitoring this situation. It is not mathematics this time. It is not a star map. It is an image. A low-resolution spectral scan of Earth's atmosphere, with specific bands highlighted. The oxygen content in our upper atmosphere, the nitrogen dioxide concentrations in our industrial corridors, the thermal signatures of our cities after dark. 3 Atlas is not just traveling toward us, it is reading us. It is analyzing our air, our output, our footprint. It is determining, in real time, exactly what kind of civilization it is approaching. We are not watching it. It is watching us. 38 hours. That is what remains before this object crosses the lunar orbit. 38 hours before we get the answer to the question that has haunted every philosopher, every scientist, every child who ever lay on their back and stared up at a sky full of stars and wondered, are we alone? The Hale-Bopp comet gave us weeks to watch and wonder. Halley's comet returns once in a lifetime. 3 Atlas will be here before most of you finish your next workday. The telescopes are locked. The Deep Space Network is recording every pulse. Governments have been briefed. And whatever 3 Atlas intends, when it threads that needle between the Earth and the Moon, whether it is a handshake, a warning, a refueling stop, or something we have no word for, yet the moment it arrives, the era of asking whether we are alone in the universe ends permanently. We will have our answer, whether we are ready for it or not. And that is exactly why you need to stay informed, stay rational, and stay engaged with the data as it comes in. Subscribe to this channel right now, because we will be updating you in real time as each new signal packet is decoded, as the trajectory recalculates, and as the 3-8-hour countdown closes. Share this video with everyone you know, not to cause fear, but because an informed humanity is the only kind ready to respond to what is coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are you watching the sky tonight? Do you believe 3 Atlas is a probe, a messenger, or something else entirely? The signal is live. The object is inbound. And history, whatever history looks like after this, starts now.